What's up, people? It's me. How's it going? And we're just 2 days away from the game of the year so far. I'd say in the entire NFL. I can't find another game that was bigger. The Niners are coming up to CenturyLink Field to take on the Seattle Seahawks with a fully packed Quest Field behind the home team Seahawks. So it's going to be a really entertaining and interesting game one way or the other. A lot of people, not only locally but nationally, are really excited for this game. Home opener. We're trying to break a decibel record for a sporting event. I think the record's 130 something. So hopefully we can do that. Obviously, in order for us to do that, we need to have the home team come out and keep themselves in the game throughout so the crowd has a reason to cheer. So as long as they do that, I think we have a shot. Now, um, this game, obviously, I can say a lot of great things about the 49ers. They have a great run defense. They get after the quarterback. They have a great passing game, or at least a great young quarterback who, pilots a very complicated and difficult to stop offense. They have a good offensive line. It's just a really good all-around team. But, as good as the Niners are, and they are great, I expect them to at least make the playoffs this year and do some things once they get there. And they have a ceiling of being a team that can win the Super Bowl. That's all valid. Above all of that, I expect this Seahawks team to go 8-0 at home and win any home games they get in the playoffs once they get there. That's been a characteristic trait of great Seahawks teams in my lifetime. I've seen two Seahawks teams that I would consider great in my life. Some would argue a third, but I think it's two. Obviously, the Super Bowl team, they went 8-0 at home, and then they went 2-0 in the playoffs at home. And then you had the team last year, the 2012 Seahawks. They went 8-0 at home and didn't play at home in the playoffs. So this is not a team that comes out with full intensity on the road sometimes. This is not a team that has an easy time of it on the road. So in order for us to be great, we need to win all our home games. I mean, maybe we could get away with losing one. And I'll give you a little bit of it. The Niners are probably the best team we're going to play this year at home. Maybe not even a probably, but none of that really matters to me. I expect to win on Sunday. While I won't be completely, amazed if it doesn't happen, I expect to win, and I'm going to be disappointed and upset if we don't. So, yeah. So, breaking down this game, as good as the Niners are, I think we saw last week, and we saw through most of last season, you can pass on them. If they get a good pass rush, maybe not, but when Aaron Rodgers had time last week, he was throwing the ball all across the field, doing pretty much whatever he wanted. So I looked for Russell Wilson to have a good game. He had a good game against Carolina last week. Now, I was critical of him, and other Seahawks fans were critical of him because he was holding on to the ball a little too long. Some of his passes early in the game were off, but he settled down and ended up having a really good game. Obviously, many quarterbacks played better last week, but he ended up having a very good game. I expect him to build on that against a 49ers pass defense that not only did they get sliced up a little bit by Aaron Rodgers last week, dating back to last season, Matt Ryan had success against them. Joe Flacco had a great game. Aaron Rodgers played them well in the playoffs. Russell Wilson threw 4 touchdowns against them last year. It's not a great pass defense. They have good pass rushers, but it's not a great pass defense on the whole. So I expect us to at least be able to do that. That being said, last year, especially near the end of the year, they didn't have Justin Smith. This year they do. Last year they had, I think, Ricky Jean-Francois, who's now in Indianapolis. And we took him on a few times in that game last year, and we got the better of him. I know on Marshawn Lynch's first touchdown run, he got taken out of the play by, I think, Russell Okung completely. And we picked on him a couple more times throughout the game, and he wasn't up to the challenge. This year they have Justin Smith back, and that changes things significantly. They're a tougher defense with him out there. And as for us on defense, Colin Kaepernick sliced up the Packers last week, but I think our defense is much better than the Packers. They have some problems back in their secondary. They have some problems with their pass defense. Kind of like the Niners. They have good pass rush with Clay Matthews and a couple other guys, but when they don't get to the quarterback, they don't seem to have the defenders to really play the pass well. I mean, Anquan Boldin destroyed the Packers pretty much by himself, a little bit of Vernon Davis, and they just had no answer for that. I don't expect the Seahawks team to have that same problem. Anquan Boldin is a very good wide receiver, especially in big situations when you need a third down catch, somebody to go over the middle and make a tough catch. Anquan Boldin was one of my favorite players in the league for some time, even when he was on the Cardinals. But, yeah. So, if you look past the depth chart after Anquan Boldin, you don't find too much. Their number 2 receiver is Kyle Williams, and then after that they have a couple guys who basically don't matter. I mean, A.J. Jenkins, they wanted him to be that guy. He was so bad this training camp, they apparently at least, they shipped him off to Kansas City. Who knows who their third guy is going to be? Right now, we don't know. So, to tie into that, this defense, because that's really going to be the focus of this game, can we stop Kaepernick? Looks like we're going to be a little healthier this week. Brandon Mebane is playing. He played last week. Tony McDaniel looks like he's going to play, which is good because he was great last week. But the real points of interest are Cliff Averill is fully expected to play and play pretty much a full load. And Chris Clemens is going to play at least some. So those are 2 key pass rushers and 2 guys that we didn't have last week. And if you're looking for a reason why we got practically no pressure on Cam Newton for much of that game, that's probably your answer. So now we have Averill, now we have Bennett, and now we have Clemens coming off the edge. So there's really no excuse to not be able to get a pass rush on Kaepernick, no matter how good the 49ers offensive line is. That being said, I'm sorry, we don't have Bruce Irvin back, but that's just one cog. We've got most of our cogs. So that's all good news. We're getting some of our injured guys back. The downer from the injury list this week is, of course, Brandon Browner. Probably not going to play. I don't expect him to play. Hamstring injury lingering. But this week, for reasons I just outlined, I don't really think that's going to kill us. And the simple reason why is because, first, Walter Thurman III has played spectacularly so far in this camp, this preseason, and now to start this season. I think he's been great. Can't ask much more of him. He's not as good as Brandon Browner. He's not as physical or as big as Brandon Browner, but that guy can play. And if we have to throw him out there in a number 2 role, I got no problem with that. Let him go for it. Especially against this Niners team. You throw Richard Sherman on Anquan Boldin. Now, granted, maybe in a perfect scenario, you'd put Browner on Boldin because they're both really big and physical guys, and that's a good matchup. Sherman can be physical, but he's not as big as Browner, and thus is at a size mismatch against Boldin. But Richard Sherman is an all-pro cornerback, and he should be able to take on Anquan Boldin if he's as good as he claims to be, and we all know how good he claims to be. So you're asking our one great active cornerback, Sherman, to shut down their one great wide receiver, Boldin, and then you're asking, our backup cornerbacks to handle other wide receivers that really aren't so great. So I don't see the loss of Boldin as being huge. Yeah, it's a negative, but I don't think this is the kind of game where it kills you like it would against maybe the Giants or to some extent the Cowboys or the Broncos, teams with multiple awesome wide receivers. This Niners team doesn't have that. The second receiver we need to worry about is Vernon Davis, and we're asking Bobby Wagner and Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor to put on their big boy pants for that, and those guys are Pro Bowl level players, so I expect them to be able to do that. And that pretty much sums up how I feel about this defense. I mean, they have a good offense. It's going to be tough to contain Kaepernick. But if this defense is as good as they like to think they are, if they're as good as they were last week, they should be able to at least slow the Niner attack down. And then when we get the ball, pass down the field, challenge those cornerbacks, challenge those safeties. We've got Sidney Rice. He's going to play. He played last week, and nothing's happened since then. Just challenge those cornerbacks and safeties down the field. Offensive line needs to get their stuff together from last week, but near the end of the game, they were playing much better, so I think they'll be at least passable, and I think we're going to find a way to win this game. It's not going to be easy, but winning a Super Bowl, going to the playoffs, making playoff runs, that's not easy either, and those are the expectations this year. So, yeah. See you guys after the game. May not make a video until Monday. We'll see. See you later.